quite frankly, these recommendations are shocking. I've seen probably about 13 of these reports in my 40 years involvement in Manx Radio. I've never seen anything like this. They're going to redefine public service broadcasting. Well, that's going to shock the world, because that was defined by the BBC in 1922, and it has been considerably updated, and every democratic public service broadcaster in the world now has a definition of public service broadcasting. It's approved by the European Convention. It was actually adopted by Tynwald in 2014. I think members might have forgotten that. But this committee, without any external independent advice, is going to redefine public service broadcasting. Well, that's very interesting. And in this first recommendation, they have this idea of mandatory and discretionary components of our output, whatever that means. No doubt the mandatory ones will be the news, the current affairs and stuff. But the discretionary, that word means we can either do it or we can't. We don't need to. It's up to us. But that includes entertainment which responds to the tastes, interests and concerns of the community. So we don't have to entertain anybody anymore. Imagine saying that to the BBC. You don't have to do Strictly Come Dancing. You don't have to do any dramas. You don't have to have the arches on or anything like that. You don't have to bother entertaining. What sort of a radio station will this be if it's not entertaining anybody? It's keeping people interested. It's the entertainment that brings them close to the education and the information. More bizarrely, they say we must eventually stop advertising. So we will lose £1.1 million of our income. We will disenfranchise the entire business community on the island. We have 225 customers currently. I'm one of them as chairman of Milltown. I advertise on Manx Radio because it works, and I advertise in the newspapers because that works as well. But to get rid of all that will be simply astonishing. But more sinisterly, they then go on in their other recommendations to say things like Manx Radio, the Treasury and the Communications Commission must come to an agreement before we get any money. Agreement about what? What does that mean? It means that the Treasury can say to us, well, you will do this and do that, or not do this and not do that. And if you don't agree to it, we won't give you the money. This is fundamentally cutting down public service broadcasting and becoming state broadcasting. And for me to hear one minister in government, I'm told, said, we don't need to be scrutinised by you because we scrutinise ourselves, is so astonishing and mind-boggling. It's the sort of thing you'd expect Donald Trump to say to CNN. These recommendations will destroy Manx Radio, and that needs to be made clear to the members who are debating it.
Clearly, really emotive topic for you. In the last couple of minutes, it's worth mentioning. Dr. Alex Allinson was very clear just now to say whether these recommendations go forward or not. It is something that has to be debated in Tynwald. The station has made a loss for the last 3 years. Are we working with a sustainable model? Isn't it right that we should be looking at it in some way?
Of course it is, but the licence requires us to do a certain amount of things. And to do that, we are given inadequate money by the government because the Treasury don't speak to the Communications Commission. No one's ever asked, well, what does it cost to do this? So we make up the rest. And, we pull in £1.1 million from the community. 60% of our income comes from our work. So Manx Radio is actually subsidising public service broadcasting, not the government. And to cut that even further means it's impossible for us to fulfil our brief. Of course, it needs to be looked at. It requires a tiny bit more money from government to keep us going. And what we cost is a fraction of what they submit to Manx National Heritage, 3 million, to the buses and stuff. I don't begrudge them a penny. They do it brilliantly. But we are cost effective and at rock bottom.